the clock on the back wall. No.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It is 6:01 according to my computer. Historic Preservation Commission, November 12th meeting commencing now. Roll call as listed. Please indicate your presence. Kayla.
Here.
Fred. Here. Nora. Here. Myself. Dusty.
Here.
Melissa reached out and won't be joining us this evening. Patrick. Here. Can we get a motion to excuse her absence, please?
Motion to excuse Melissa's absence.
And a second.
Second.
Any revisions to the agenda before we move to adopt?
Yes. Pam brought it to my attention before we started here that we should have something to look at and discuss the work plan. Excuse me. So we could add that underneath F to F2, or F, I mean, I don't care where it goes, but discussion and action items is letter F, so I think F2 would be the appropriate place.
So there's supposed to be something at E4 or no?
Probably. Let me see. Yes, sorry. So I just didn't put in the, when I was writing it, it doesn't auto-populate for whatever reason. E4 is highlights from the NTHP, Pass Forward 2025, some notes that Nora provided us. No, I'm sorry. E4 is some notes provided by Nora from the National Trust for Historic Preservation Pass Forward 2025 conference. There still might have been, sorry about an empty agenda report in there. I apologize for that, but the second document is called Untitled Document 2 are the notes that Nora provided.
And then do we need approval of minutes? Because our last meeting was the planning meeting. We don't really have notes from that. That's talking about the work plan, right?
Yeah, there is no formal minutes. So I just put some notes that Kayla provided. So thank you, Kayla.
Okay. So we do still need to do that part?
They weren't formal minutes in my opinion, so I don't think that we need to approve them.
Move a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
Move to adopt the agenda as amended.
And I think we need a second.
A second.
Very well. We will skip the approval of minutes. Public comments. We have Pam in the audience. You don't need to vote. We just need a motion and a second, I think.
Oh, okay. Is the mic on? Yes, it is. A couple of these comments, or one of these comments specifically, will talk about the work plan, but as opposed to jumping up and trying to interrupt your conversation then, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. First of all, thank you, Kayla, also for the notes about the work plan. That was very, very helpful to have. The distillation of what you ended up with, which was page 6 in your agenda packet today, is great, except that it still doesn't have due dates or budget items. And so when I was working on the one for the O'Connor Fund today, I made extra copies just as an example for how you might want to think the committee, subcommittees might want to think about setting up their monthly reports and their work plan. May I share these paper copies with you just to look at for later?
Of course.
Okay. And the other comment is Nora's report. The next time you write a report, put your name on it. Right at the top so we know where it's coming from. Thank you. Talk to you later during the O'Connor Fund.
Thank you, Pam.
Any other public comments previously submitted?
There were not. I think, I don't want to air anyone out necessarily, but I think in the future we might start to have, I don't know why that's happening. I was speaking with Dan Kastner, who's the chair of the Historic District Commission, and he expressed interest in wanting to start attending these meetings as well, so you might start seeing his presence as a public member in the future as well. Obviously, he's not here this evening, or if he is, he's hiding. But I just want to let you guys know that he was expressing interest, and he kind of wanted to start to make that crossover as well to see what goes on in this world, as well as the HDC.
Okie dokie. E1 financial report.
Really hope we don't continue to get feedback. Actual sound feedback, not other sorts of feedback. Okay, so, we haven't spent any money, so nothing will have changed here. I think that you can see on the balance, though, that it's going to be reflecting a very large number because it's accounting for the amount of money that we, whatever you want to call it, the shell funds that we have accounted for now, right? So the $25,000 that we've said that we might bring over from the O'Connor Fund is now listed as a credit for us. That's why the number is going to look much larger on the balance sheets. It also makes it a little bit less navigable, if you can believe that. Any questions?
We are hearing none.
Okay. I think we can just piggyback that right into the O'Connor Fund kind of numbers stuff, right? I didn't list October in here for the fund balances, but you can see that fund summaries for O'Connor 1 and O'Connor 2 over at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation have gone up. Love to see those numbers go up that much, right? So September we are at $481,000. We're up to $509,000 in November, which is a sweet jump to see, I think, right? To break through another $100,000 mark is awesome. Again, I think that usually those percent increases are pretty close to each other for O'Connor 1 and O'Connor 2. It's just there's less money in O'Connor 1, so it doesn't look like as big of a jump. But I was very pleased to see that number go up that much. I won't read through the entire report that Pam submitted because I trust that everyone has read it previously. Pam did include some numbers, I think, for, no, those are for the beginning of September, it looks like, at the bottom of her report. I can go back and get October ones if it really matters, but I think it's, we're keeping up to date now with the November numbers, and we can see that it's up quite a bit. And this brings us to we can, in my opinion, do this here, we can do it later. I put it in here originally, but it'll be a voting matter, so whatever you guys want to do, it seems like it would make the most sense here. Voting for reimbursement to Pam for the stamps and the envelopes for the envelope stuffing campaign and the letter mailing campaign. I'll leave it up to you guys if it's going to drive me crazy. Just leave it up to you guys if you want to do the voting here, or if you guys want to do it later, completely up to you.
It's under action later, so
Yep.
it's fine.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I alluded to under goal item number 1, under the O'Connor Fund, that Luis and I have been talking with the Community Foundation about splitting the fund. And next month, I'm working on a graphic that will explain what we're about to do here. And next month, it'll be kind of an explainer, what's where now and where it's going to go and how it will work. So it's complicated because there's a lot of legal stuff involved, but in the end, I think it'll be a much clearer way to go about doing our business. And what it means is that all the money that comes into the fund, whether it's from an income-producing stream that the Preservation Commission has, or it's a gift from a donor outside the Preservation Commission, will go into one fund, and there will be another fund created at that time which will be exclusively for gifts and grants. Everything else will stay in the original fund, and we can make transfers from one to the other, from the original fund to the grant-making fund as needed. The only decision that's really yet to be made is how much we're going to retain. I think probably keeping a little bit more in what they refer to as the agency fund, the fund that is going to fund the part of the fund that will fund your activities on a day-to-day basis that are not gifts and grants. That way, if a project comes up that the Preservation Commission wants to undertake that is larger than just annual expenses, that's where that money will be. So I hope to have that done. And I sent Luis a note this morning along with our philanthropic advisor at the Community Foundation. The three of us, Luis, Carla, Fernandez Soto, who you met, those of you who were here, met at a meeting about a year ago, and I are going to make a presentation at this year's Michigan Preservation Network Conference in Detroit. So now we have to do some work to get ready to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Just said thank you, sorry.
Very good. Brings us down to the City Hall designation report. I don't know if anyone had any questions or comments about that submission. Sounds like it's kind of a waiting game again. If not, we will turn the floor over to Nora to tell us about the Pass Forward Conference.
Okay, excuse me. Yeah, I didn't include my name on this. That is my bad. I guess I was forcing you to read all of it to see at the very bottom my emails included. So a little test there for you. But yeah, I don't really have a ton to add to the highlights that I included on this, but I did want to include links for further reading, that could certainly talk about the information better than I could. But yeah, it was a really cool conference, and I was glad to be a part of it. It was nice to sort of get a survey of what's going on in Wisconsin and then have the opportunity to connect with preservationists from across the nation. So I guess if you have anything you'd like to talk more about or additional questions, I do have, again, my email at the very bottom, or we could talk more now, but yeah, I wanted to just kind of include some of the highlights from my time at the National Trust conference. So.
Yeah, thanks for all the links. Sounds cool.
I trust you had fun.
Yeah, it's always a good time in Wisconsin, as they say.
Is that what they say?
Yeah. Yeah, again, it's at the very bottom if you...
Okay. Community Engagement Subcommittee report.
I can, again, talk about this a little bit. So our subcommittee has been working on getting the letters out and the kind of correspondence out to community groups to sort of explain what we do and in what ways we can collaborate with them in the future. So essentially the important pieces of this are to note that Pam and I work to sort of like condense and solidify the mailing list that we're going to use. And our plan is to, excuse me, our plan is to wait until after the first of the year to actually send them out, just to make sure that we're making the most of the mailing. We don't want to get lost in the shuffle of the O'Connor Fund appeal and the inevitable nonprofit, year-end appeals that happen now. So that's kind of the big headline. We also included links so you can read the actual letter and look at the mailing list if you're interested in that, but otherwise, that's kind of where we're currently at as a subcommittee. So.
And also that document you want to include with the letters for references a lot of the videos and stuff that we've done before is a cool compilation. Hopefully it sparks some interest.
Yeah, our thoughts exactly.
You just got your hand on all these reports, don't you? The Preservation Month Subcommittee.
Yeah, that's me again. Yeah, essentially this was our subcommittee's first stab at kind of creating a work plan for 2026. Obviously, we're going to be talking more about that shortly, but as you can see, we sort of outlined the main kind of categories for how we see celebrating Preservation Month and awarding, the award. Also, obviously, within each of the kind of overarching categories, we have some specifics about how we're going to make this happen with some more general, just kind of month, date for us to work on. But yeah, we also did include the costs of things that we're planning on relying on. So yeah, I keep ending things with a so, but if you have any questions about that. Otherwise, I mean, obviously, we're going to continue to develop this before it's finalized, and the goal for, our next meeting, of course, too, will also be to have names at the top of this one, too, so much to look forward to.
Thank you, thank you. I went back through some of the old pricing things, and I noticed that I told you a fib for the space to celebrate. The number that I was giving you was for a longer window of time, I think. So I think in years past when we've gone to KNAC and rented out that space, it was like $200, but I guess the buffer of 100 isn't the worst thing to have budgeted out, right? Who knows? Maybe it's gone up this year. I don't know yet. You know, you asked questions about trying to move it around a little bit. I think until we can really flesh that out, I would like to keep it in a central location, and I know that I communicated that with you in an email. Just, I guess, if people have questions about why do we keep doing it at KNAC, I think it's an extremely convenient location that's in the center of the city, right? Downtown kind of being the city's neighborhood, if you will. It's neutral, and I really enjoy that neutrality for everything. Thank you for putting all your reports together, but this one I think has a lot of stuff that's really fleshed out and good considerations for us to continue to try to spark some interest throughout the community to get applications in, right? Again, I know I harp on this quite a bit, but most of the time I think that I fill the role of administrator, and it's not often that we get to overtly celebrate all the things that people are doing with preservation in the community, and this is a really great opportunity to do so.
Are we going to start decorating now, looks like?
That is the plan.
All right. And that brings us to action and discussion, where we can address the reimbursements with the receipts included in the packet. I think we just need a properly worded motion, unless there's questions or discussion on that. Please.
Do you have any suggestions on this, Pam? I put down the reimbursement for the exact amount that you gave me, so $112.21, $112.21. If you don't have any comments on it, okay.
Move to reimburse Pam $112.21 for the envelopes and stamps purchased for the mailings in support of the O'Connor Fund.
Thank you. Do we need a second before we vote? Or?
Yeah, I should have a second.
I'll second.
All right. You heard the proposal. We'll do a roll call vote. Going down the list. Kayla?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Maura?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Dusty?
Yes.
Melissa is absent. Patrick?
Yes.
Approved.
It passed, so I'll work on getting it through for you. I think that is, I could pull it up if we really want to see it, but that's a huge driver, right, of, I don't know if I want to, I guess you could call it revenue. That's a huge driver for money to come into the fund each year, it looks like when we see it, right? So I think that it's a great thing that Pam graciously hosts every year. Shows how involved you still are, too, with the fund that bears your name, right, of right down to even putting the letters into the envelopes, which I think is great. So thank you so much, and we'll work on getting that back to you as fast as we can.
Louise, did you get a chance to look through the history about if we had voted on that being a operational expense we can consistently count on?
I did not. I was just telling Pam I forgot what occupied so much of my week last week, but it was something. I do want to say, though, that the minutes question that you guys both brought up in the thread is one that I did look at. I'm so sorry for the feedback. I don't know if people can hear it as much as I can. I think that it's probably just a little bit split up between the two, and I think the minutes that we're seeing right now that go back to 2022 is when we switched over from not having not using Civic Clerk, which is the way that we host the agendas and minutes now for the entire city. That happened in 2022, and then afterwards we started using it, after 2022. Prior to that, we were just, Sharon had a different way of doing them. Even before that, though, there's another website where some of the minutes might have been posted. I could look at trying to get everything in the same place, or at least having something to point to. The other minutes also concerns me as we look forward. Like, I don't know what the off-ramp is necessarily for Civic Clerk. Just thinking about future people who have my position, right? So after Civic Clerk, what happens? And where do the minutes get saved from these ones too, is a legitimate question that I've had. So I just want to let you guys know that I looked into the question about the archived minutes. I wish that we had a better way to kind of search through them using keywords to see for motions, but we certainly do not have that. That is certainly not a possibility right now. But I will look into it so we don't run into this same kind of thing again. I remember that we did make some kind of votes for recurrence, but I don't know if it included stuff like that.
All right. Brings us to the work plan, but still needs to be fleshed out, and everyone confirming their participation in various subcommittees. I guess we'll scroll back up in the packet to the summary pages. Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know if we're going to be kind of going in order of the 4 that we have, but at least for the Preservation Awards of Merit, I'm comfortable, obviously, being a part of that. Last year, I was the leader for it, and I'm comfortable doing that again. I can just volunteer. And then, not to speak on behalf of Melissa, but I do know that she volunteered to be a part of that subcommittee at the planning meeting, and we did collaborate on the work plan, so it does feel sort of safe to say that she would also probably be counted as a committee or commission member on that subcommittee, but we do still have room for one more person, so. But we could talk about that later too if we want to see where roles are needed elsewhere, but last thing I'll say, I'll go through and update the plan to have more of this like goal 1, goal 2, goal 3 format, and then have a plan to share that with the commission again for next month. So.
So that means you're counting me on there, even though I'm not listed. And then the historic tours, Melissa's obviously not here. Fred or Dusty, do you want to speak on that?
Trying to think of some tours that we could do. I've just thought about that. That's let's see, Lynn's not doing her tours anymore, is she? I believe
No.
no.
Nope. Not regularly.
Is there anybody that gives tours and stuff around? Yeah. Sure.
She's not doing a tour series, but she has been asked and has agreed to do some special tours for special circumstances. So if you're asking if she might feel interested in helping with that, I would say definitely approach her with whatever ideas you might have.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, does anybody run tours in Kalamazoo? I can't think of.
Are you talking beyond the hidden Kalamazoo and the, I'm not sure which kind of tours you're talking about, like Stewart, those tours?
Yeah, anything else besides those? Were they? And they charge for them? Are we looking at that to be a moneymaker?
Potentially.
Be nice.
Yeah, that's one of the goals in here. It's letter D.
Okay.
Determine whether or not it could be a revenue source.
Okay. Yeah, this is the first I've thought about it, so.
Yeah, I'm assuming that Melissa has more guidance, so when she's here, I'm sure she has more to say about that. Or we'll share that in emails.
Okie-dokie. Dusty in the cemeteries.
I honestly have not fleshed this out yet to get it updated for next year, but I will have that done by our next meeting. Yeah. I think these goals all look very doable.
And then the O'Connor Fund Management and Grants. We've got that pretty well documented, but so Catherine is with us on that subcommittee?
Oh, yes, she is, and I'm sorry, I forgot.
Just another comment or two.
Please.
What I envisioned when you all did the work plan session was that at the end of the year, you would all have your due dates and your budgets in place, and then the commission would vote to approve it, and we wouldn't have to go through the, can I get reimbursed for the stamps and, post office stuff, envelopes and stuff as a separate agenda item later, or if Nora wants to get or the Preservation Awards group wants to get a speaker, they've got some money there to do it up to a certain amount, that kind of thing. I think it would save you all a lot of time and a lot of extra conversation.
Yeah, it seems like most of the amounts should be listed as up to, and then if we exceed them, we can adjust it at that time.
Yes.
Yeah. In the case of making O'Connor Fund gifts and grants, I put those in there because we have fixed amounts, maximum. So, but then next year, when you have to make a budget for the city side, all the stuff is there, and you just got to review it all, see whether it's still, good, or you're going to do something different. Sorry to interrupt again.
No, not at all. It helps us then to be able to fit everything within the city budget, obviously, because that's what we're going to have to be operating within anyways. With what Pam just said in mind, I think it'd be nice then if we could have everything fleshed out for next month's meeting. Next month's meeting being the 9th of December, right? If people think that there's going to be any issue with that, please let us know. If not, we could bring forth kind of the completely fleshed out work plan by then plan, and it does set us up nicely for the following year, right, for 2026. If we can try to keep stuff as close as we can to the way that Pam laid it out, that'd be wonderful, so we can have some uniformity throughout the entire document as well. And again, I strongly, strongly encourage subcommittees to get together to be able to flesh these things out, so that we can report out to the main group what's been taken care of in the subcommittees. I know that scheduling is hard to do, but there's multiple ways that folks can get together to meet in person or virtually. You guys could send physical letters if you wanted back and forth. I think that correspondence in that fashion would take a while to get business done, but if you did so choose, I would not be stopping you from that. But again, if people have any issues now, or if they're forecasting any issues with getting that done by the December meeting, by the 9th of December, please let me know. If not, we'll just plan on having kind of a final vote on a finalized work plan by then. Finalized being, due dates for things and budget items for things as well.
Can you clarify if the meeting on the 9th or the 10th?
Excuse me, the 10th.
Thank you.
All right, let's all get to work. Coordinators report. Do you have anything for us, Louise?
Nothing crazy. I didn't write one up. No, nothing crazy at this point. I think that it's exciting to hear that Dan Kastner, like I said, the chair of the HDC, was interested in attending these meetings. I think that the cross-pollination, for lack of a better term, is something that excites me greatly, to be able to have everyone have a more holistic grasp of what preservation is here in the city of Kalamazoo. So I was excited by that prospect. As we move into the holiday season and stuff, I don't think that the holidays are going to mess with any of our dates at all for the meetings. If it gets crunched around like Thanksgiving time for folks doing work plan stuff, just let me know so we can try to get ahead of it. Try not to let me know like the week of or the week before the next meeting if we have issues putting together our work plan things, even though I know we're coming up to it. Thanksgiving will be here, I'm sure way faster than we think. As the HDC chair is coming to these meetings, I do want to reiterate that folks are always more than welcome to come to HDC meetings as well. I have to go through and look. I don't think that we have a meeting this month. Should be just swell. But, they're different, but I think they're also very interesting to see how those meetings work and how much different they are than these ones. So just let me know if there's interest. Yeah, I think that's all the big news that I have right now, unless I'm missing something that someone wants to prod or poke me on. That's all that I have right now.
May I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I think you mentioned before the meeting started that you had a huge Section 106 project that you were doing.
Yeah, we have a couple.
Can you share this information?
Yeah.
General information about that?
Yeah, let me do some searching to see. I don't want to disclose anything. There's as we have talked about in the past, right, Section 106 is kind of the initiative it's a process that's initiated when federal funds are being spent in an effort to evaluate whether or not those funds are going to have any adverse effect on historic resources. I have, and it looks like this one got announced last year. I just want to make sure. So there's a project that we are working on right now here in the city of Kalamazoo. I'm only kind of tangentially involved, I think. in any official capacity. It's called the Protect Grant. There's a page on the City of Kalamazoo's website about it that's from last year when the money got awarded. Everything started to get pretty complicated, I think, when we started to go through administration changes, right? And then I can't even imagine what it's like dealing with millions and millions and millions of dollars. I can barely handle these smaller budgets. But this is for doing some infrastructure updates from an area that, you know, could be roughly bounded by Kalamazoo and the Kalamazoo Avenue, in the northeast corner of the project area, all the way down to like Western Michigan University. Again, there's a map on the city's website that shows all of this, but that's kind of the rough boundaries of it, following more or less Stadium and Michigan. With a 106 review on a project like this is usually going to be divided into two general portions, in my opinion. You'd be looking at the archaeological side of things, and then you'd also be looking at an above-ground investigation of things as well. I am certainly not the person that's doing any of these reviews. I think when we talk a lot about 106 reviews in this commission in a way that's outside of what I consider to be the norm of what most 106 reviews are. Since we have the programmatic agreement, most of the 106 reviews that I do, pretty cut and dry. Most of the 106 work that you see that's done in the field, which is truly a large portion of all preservation work that's done in the country, in my opinion. It's what most folks do, I think, is an entry-level gig to get into it right out of school. Would be going out and taking photographs for above-ground things, filling out inventory forms here in the state of Michigan. So SHPO has these above-ground inventory forms. They're kind of a butt to fill out just because they're Microsoft forms and like a Microsoft Word document, and that makes it kind of a pain in the butt to fill out. You go through those, and then generally people are just evaluating the historic significance of properties using criteria C, which is the architectural merit of a property. You know, projects like these that are road projects are going to be really confined to the right-of-way, so I'm not sure generally how much that would affect historic properties. I think what's really interesting to look at with this property, and I did a session at MAP, the Michigan Association of Planning. I did 2 tours. Wonderful, wonderful conference. Really bad weather that we had for MAP this year. So it was raining, and to the folks that joined me on that tour, I applaud you because it was really cold and very wet, and there are some people that stuck it out with me the entire time. One of the tours that we did was kind of talking about the infrastructure updates that we're going to be having in the city of Kalamazoo, and we looked at the Michigan area. When you look at Michigan, you can see what would have happened before Section 106 came into place. It's the same kind of thing that you can see if you looked at downtown Detroit and you looked at the Lodge Freeway. It's the same kind of thing that you could see when you look at pretty much, I think, any major freeway in a major United States city, where they would have just laid a highway straight through neighborhoods. I'm sure that those neighborhoods were folks that were disenfranchised in some capacity, right? Or they were probably a minority group in some capacity who were then moved out of the neighborhood, probably through the means of eminent domain. But Michigan is what we have, I think, is a great lasting impact of that here in the city of Kalamazoo, where we can see that we lost, I don't have the exact number, but I think it's between 10 and 20 houses. To me, that is really the minute part of what happened. The major part of what happened is that we bifurcated the Stewart neighborhood, so that eastern end now, which is still technically the Stewart neighborhood, does not feel the same as the western end of the neighborhood, right? So standing on Elm Street, you get a much different feeling, which is one of the 7 aspects of integrity, than you do when you're standing on Allen Boulevard, which is remarkable to me. So I think that again reinforces what good comes from 106 review, right? is that we get a second to kind of slow down. Pause is not the right word necessarily, but if we wanted to use an analogy, it gives us a chance to pump our brakes and look at how are these federal funds going to be impacting a project and impacting a city, right, and impacting historic things. We have people that are hired now to be doing this work for us. Like I said, I can't do it. It's a lot of work, and I applaud the folks who do the 106 work throughout the country because it is time consuming to go out not only and get the pictures, but then do the analysis of the properties in question. The end of a 106 review usually is like a MOA or MOU, a memorandum of agreement or a memorandum of understanding, where we look at what effects are going to be wrought on historic properties, if there are any adverse effects, and then how are we going to mitigate those effects. So sometimes it could be something simple, like there are not going to be any adverse effects, and you just get to move forward with the project. Sometimes things get a little bit more complicated. I don't mean this in any disparaging capacity, but I think a great project to look at would be the runway extension of the airport here in the city of Kalamazoo. There's considerations for the trees that were growing in the Millwood neighborhood when they proposed the extension of the runway. For the safety of the planes to be landing, they thought that they were going to need to cut down some trees. SHPO found that that was an adverse effect on the neighborhood, so the mitigation then was to replant trees that would not grow as tall, right? That kind of makes it interdisciplinary too, where you'd want to have people who know what they're talking about with trees as well. That's kind of an example of an outcome that you could have for mitigating those adverse effects. So I think that 106 gets tossed around a lot, and I think that it's something that everyone could use a little bit of boning up on, right, to understand what it means a little bit better. Again, 106 is just a colloquialism. It used to be Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, but now it's not there anymore. It's in 36. Yes. Yeah, that one's over my head for right now, and I'd have to dig in to look at that one more. Yes, I agree. I think 36 CFR. I think the stark reality of this one, and I don't mean to, so Pam was asking, and just for the record, Pam said that during the 60s and 70s when work was done on the block where the Radisson is now, this commission served as a consulting party for some of the 106 work. Why is that not happening for the past 106 projects that have happened? I answered that I didn't know. I can't look into it. I do think that one reality that I've realized, and one that I did not consider, was that when you have an influx of cash, and I don't mean to conflate this with the question that you asked in any capacity, I think that we started to realize very quickly when you get an influx of cash that you have to spend by a certain date, it can be really scary to make sure that you get the money spent by that certain date, and sometimes navigating then all those deadlines becomes tricky is something that I noticed, right? And figuring out then all the right players to be at the table to do the 106 reviews becomes invaluable. Getting folks like who are consultants who can do the work the first time correctly is really important because we don't want to lose any funding, but then also just like it's Michigan, so we can't do construction during some times of the year, right? So timing everything out is something that I've never considered, especially when we're stacking things, and I think there were a lot of considerations that I did not think about. I will look into the question about why we have not been consulting as well, because I think that that's a great. No. Hopefully I got out of it well enough, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, Pam, and I was wondering, Luis, too. So, because for my job working in a TIPO, I can see in a lot of cases the projects that we receive, all of the consulting parties that were contacted. And so for some projects, they do send, like agencies or their consultants do send the projects to like historical societies or kind of like those, local organizations. And so I was wondering too, for the ones that get sent to you, Luis, and maybe there haven't been other examples really, but instead, so, right, like the agency wouldn't necessarily send that to this Historic Preservation Commission, right? So like they'd probably send them to you as the Historic Preservation Coordinator, but are there times, and you don't have to answer, you can think about it, but like where you would want to draw or like bring in this commission or I don't know if it's also the HDC in some cases to be like in as like a consulting party, as like Pam's kind of alluding to?
Yeah, wonderful question. I think, so the first part of it, the only ones that I get sent to me directly are for cell towers, which I'm sure you're inundated with the Gun Lake Tribe. Usually they're not in historic district areas, and I'm not generally then looking at the adverse effects that they're going to have on things. When I say cell towers too, it's usually like we're going to go up there and change out one battery pack. And I do not find that generally those have adverse effects on things. So those are the ones that usually come to me. Next, then, when we look at like the HDC's involvement, more and more I've been considering this, and I do want to make sure that everyone realizes, everyone in a very broad sense, truly everyone, the difference between, the HDC and its role, and then changes that happen in the right-of-way, and make sure that there's a very distinct difference that people recognize between the two. So if things were going to be happening in the right-of-way, it would not be the role of the Historic District Commission to regulate upon them at all. And I just don't want people to get confused by the two of them. When we start to look at like aspects of integrity and how they would affect, like things that are confined to the right-of-way, in my opinion, would be affecting things like environment and feeling. Mostly. There's probably some other ones too, but those are the big ones that I think about. It would probably be more on this group to look at them, this group being the group that makes National Register nominations, right? I think, just to address that because you brought up the HDC, this is something that I can look into more. We have not had, or I have not had a lot of these come up. While I've been here, the biggest ones have been these Protect Grant things, and then the airport's runway extension. Just to understand, you guys are right, how some of those consulting parties, how they're picked out to consult on these large projects, because these are large projects. I can dig more into the CLG status of the city as well, right, to see if that has anything to do with it further, too.
When my husband and I had a bed and breakfast at the corner of Thompson Street and West Main, right across from the base of the cemetery, MDOT, using federal funds, was planning to widen the existing 4 10-foot lanes to 12 feet each, and adding a turn lane in the middle of 12 feet. And going back to Luis's comment about feeling, There is a historical cemetery on one side and a historic neighborhood on the other side. At that time, West Main Hill was on the National Register of Historic Places, but not yet listed on the local district designation. And the neighborhood was a consulting party, the Preservation Commission was a consulting party about how the effects, neutral, negative, positive, and it turned out that the community feeling, the consulting party's feeling, was that that was too much for West Main Hill, which is, as I said, the setting with the cemetery on one side and the neighborhood on the other side, that running 5 lanes, essentially, what would that be, 12 plus 4, another 15, 16 feet of width up that hill and down that hill was too much. So they eliminated the center turning lane altogether and reduced the widening of the 4 existing lanes to just a foot each. Much, much smaller impact.
So I will look into it for the commission, just to understand what role, if any, the commission could serve on that kind of 106 review in the future. Again, I think my personal experience is that 106, when you're in school for this kind of stuff, was something that was kind of tossed about a lot, and it turned into like placeholder text. Like everyone just assumed you know what it was talking about, but I think when we look at real world practical preservation, it's one of the most prevalent things that I've seen in practical preservation is Section 106 reviews. I think that then what goes hand in hand with that then is National Register designation. So those are very prevalent, and those are very real world applications of preservation.
Luis, you said this earlier, what area is under the Section 106 review? You said Kalamazoo Avenue. Was it blocks around that, or is it involved with the making that into a two-way street? Is that the...
Kyle has the map pulled up right now.
And the arena is going to be
directly to the east of kind of where Michigan, Westnedge, and Kalamazoo make an arrow.
Between Park and Westnedge?
right
Yes.
in here. Yeah, that's the arena, I think. West Main. Okay. And you called that what? What's the name of that? You gave it a name, Kyle. Something you called that. Ribbon.
Oh, I was just saying they were daylighting the Arcadia Creek.
There are portions that would be daylighted, yeah.
So basically along Arcadia Creek, it looked like that. Did that follow Arcadia Creek?
Yeah, blue line.
Okay.
Pay attention to the city communications. There's been a few planning projects and sharing design sketches and things. Anybody else have questions, comments, something to get off their chest? No? All right. Until next time, thank you for being with us. Good night.